Welcome to the Explainer. So, have you ever wondered how some people can just endure the most unbelievable suffering and still keep their moral compass completely intact? Well, today we're diving into this incredibly fascinating framework. It literally takes the hard physics of magnetic hysteresis and maps it directly onto the human experience of enduring trials. And look, we're not just playing around with pretty metaphors today, okay? We're looking at the exact structural equivalent of the human will, but mapped out in material science. Listen to this for a second. You did not begin to walk in the dark. You began to walk in the light, and the light withdrew. It's heavy, right? But it really makes you ask, is our ability to endure, to just keep putting one foot in front of the other when the light fades, is that just a psychological quirk, or is it something a whole lot deeper? What if this capacity for moral perseverance operates exactly, and I mean exactly, like a physical material reacting to a magnetic field? Okay, so to really grasp this, we've got to lock down our core concept here, hysteresis. In physics, it's this phenomenon where a system's current state depends totally on its past history. Think about it like this. If you magnetize a piece of iron with an external field, and then you take that field away, the iron doesn't just snap back and lose all its magnetism, it holds on to an alignment. Basically, it remembers. And that's what we call magnetic remnants. So here is the absolute game changer of a question. What if our moral faculty, our sanctified will, operates the exact same way? Let's actually dig into the math. And the Giles-Atherton equation lays it right out for us, starting with the anhysteretic equilibrium. Now let's cut through the jargon for a minute. Think of M-an as pure, unadulterated responsiveness. It's what your heart's alignment would look like if you had zero fixed commitments. Then you've got this parameter A. That's basically the thermal noise of the soul, our baseline physical distractions and everyday appetites. But alpha? Oh, alpha's where it gets really interesting. Alpha is essentially your integrity. A soul with a super high alpha has a structure so intensely coherent that when you align just one piece of it, the rest naturally just snaps right into place. Right next to that, we have the irreversible component. This is the structural backbone of the will. Here, the parameter K represents pinning energy. You can think of K like your deepest vows, those foundational commitments that refuse to break just because you're having a really bad day. The magnetization only shifts when the external pressure actually blows past that local pinning energy. And then there's delta, which encodes the asymmetry of the response. It's literally the mathematical signature of this profound human truth. You never, ever retrace the exact same path going backward as you did going forward. When you bring the whole shebang together, you get total magnetization. Let's look at C, the reversibility ratio. This represents how much of your soul just sort of flexes under pressure and then immediately springs back to its original shape once the pressure's off. So if you've got a high C, sure, you might be receptive in the heat of the moment, but the experience? It leaves absolutely no lasting mark. True growth, real sanctification, that happens by actively lowering C. It's about actually allowing your soul to be permanently altered by the trials you endure. All right, so now that we've got the math down, let's actually walk through a complete cycle of a trial step by step. We're going to use this visual tool called the Heart Trainer. Pay close attention to this awesome iron will color palette we're tracking here. You've got that steel backbone for the structure of the will, the pink for the living tissue, and then that rich, deep blue-violet of the blood rushing back to be remade after the hard work is done. Okay, step 1, saturate. So the external field on that horizontal axis is sitting right at a positive 1.0. This is peak joy, full consolation. The alignment of the heart is completely maxed out, just sitting perfectly at the ceiling. At this point, the trial hasn't even started yet. It's all just light. But then, the external field starts to reverse. That joy, it gets pulled right back. The alignment takes a total plunge down that descending branch, slicing right across the vertical axis. And this maps perfectly to the very beginning of a deep trial. This is exactly what the experience feels like when you're in it, isn't it? The external support completely fades, your internal alignment plummets, and honestly, it feels like there is absolutely no end in sight. Now, the absolute most critical moment in this whole cycle is right here at the bottom. The external field is at its deepest negative point, shoving right past the coercivity threshold, or HC. Guys, this is literally the painful geometry of the dark night of the soul mapped out right in front of us. The descent is at max depth, and the heart feels completely disconnected, almost averse to the light. But, and here's the beautiful part, from this absolute lowest point, every single step forward is a return. And this is where the raw power of hysteresis really shines. As the external field starts climbing back towards zero, the heart doesn't just lazily retrace the path it took on the way down. No way. It takes an entirely new ascending branch that's visibly displaced from the first one. That gap right there between the descent and the ascent, that is literal structural proof that you are fundamentally not the same person leaving the dark as you were when you entered it. Finally, the cycle wraps up at remnants. So the external field of joy is completely back to zero. But check this out. Your heart isn't. It's actually sitting elevated. It's maintaining this strong upward alignment, even though there's absolutely zero external field propping it up. Faithful endurance leaves a permanent residual alignment. The trained heart literally holds an entirely new shape. The taxonomy of the heart, 4 material types. So if we take these key mathematical parameters, kappa, which is how deeply you commit, and HC, your resistance to breaking under pressure, we can actually categorize the human heart into 4 distinct material states. Let's walk through this taxonomy. First, you've got the saint. High kappa, high HSC. They are incredibly quick to recognize grace, but structurally, they are just immovable against pressure. Then there's the reactive heart. They feel everything so intensely, but the second the pressure hits, they kind of shatter. A hardened heart, low kappa, high HSC. Basically insensitive to grace and stubbornly immovable in error. And finally, the lukewarm heart. It neither feels deeply nor holds a firm stance. But hey, keep this in mind. This isn't some permanent, locked-in moral hierarchy. It's an open space. With the right training and trials, someone who's reactive today can absolutely become a saint tomorrow. Section 2. Thermodynamics of the soul, boundaries and breaking points. Okay, we really need to completely debunk that old cliche, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Because honestly, in material science, if you hit a system with catastrophic pressure too fast, you don't train the lattice, you literally shatter it. Extreme trauma just breaks the structure. Then we have to look at the annealing requirement. If you just keep cycling a material over and over without letting it rest, it snaps. So rest, sleep, stepping back, these aren't just trendy self-care ideas, they are absolute thermodynamic necessities for your soul. And finally, grace dependency. The heart just can't align itself in a vacuum. That field that pulls us into alignment, it has to come from an external source. From metaphor to science, the falsification protocol. And this brings us to why this whole concept isn't just a fun, beautiful metaphor, it's rigorous science. The Hysteretic Heart model is actually testable, and it comes with a strict falsification protocol. Plain and simple, if the real-world data doesn't match the math, the model is dead. So the model makes a very specific prediction. If you measure individuals in a highly supportive community, and then you naturally withdraw that support, their retention of those commitments doesn't just randomly vanish overnight. It follows an exact stretched exponential decay curve. So if human perseverance is truly hysteretic, our commitments decay at this precise mathematical rate the moment external reinforcement is pulled away. It essentially proves that our resilience is entirely measurable. Now, this demands a pretty radical redefinition of how we view our struggles. The quote-unquote darkness of suffering, it's not actually the enemy of your alignment. Under this physical framework, the dark is simply a coercive calibration field. Think about that. It is literally the only instrument in existence that's capable of taking the true measure of your alignment, and it's the only environment where your permanent structural integrity can actually be formed. I really want to leave you to ponder this powerful thought from the text. Love the dark, not because it is good, but because it is the field that has been measuring you all along. The light has not gone, it has only become internal. You are not abandoned, you are established. Wow. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning out there and keep enduring. But seriously, ask yourself this. The next time the light withdraws in your life, what exact shape is your heart going to hold in the dark?